I guess growing up, you would say that was a natural just because I grew up around a lot of, just a lot of family members that were all female.
Hmm.
Um, but when I really got into game, and that was after my first hip replacement, that was when I discovered there was a thing called game. I was kind of already doing it, but I discovered it, and this is when I started criticizing the London Daygame model because there was a big coaching company in Sydney. And instantly, when I first met the guy, I just knew that that guy wasn't really gaming. He was coming across like a guru and invincible. And I know that it doesn't matter how invincible you are or you are going to get your ass kicked out in the field, no matter how awesome you think you are. Everybody gets their ass kicked and handed to them doing cold approach, no matter how good looking, charismatic, blah 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 you are. And real gamers kind of know that. They know that it doesn't matter who you are, you're gonna have your bad days.
Hmm.
And um, I met up with, I won't mention him. I've talked shit about him before, but he's like, there was a guy that was working for him and helping people out with maybe I'll lift this up so I can uh and he was helping him out with his clients with the homework, and their setup was basically copy paste London day game model with a few little exceptions.
Hmm.
um and I I was like, oh wow, this is some magic thing that I've never heard of before. And I started implementing, and it didn't seem to work that well.
Hmm.
So what I did was I told the guy who was working for this company, and what he would do is he had an intimate sort of relationship with every single client that this company had. And I told him it doesn't seem to be working. It seems to be the girl seems to be high energy early on. I would get a lot more approaches in, get a lot of numbers, but the back end where they turn up on the date and getting laid and locking them in didn't seem to work so well.
Hmm.
And he refuted that, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put it into a spreadsheet, and I'll just keep you updated with what I'm doing. And I wasn't even working part time at this stage. I was just out on the street almost every day. And so I was able to put hundreds of approaches in within a matter of weeks, and hundreds. And next thing you know, demographics, how I opened,
Hmm.
like running the structure
Wow.
as clearly as I possibly can. Um, and then what I would do is I would also map out, okay, so how many approaches, what demographic, and then of those demographics, try to, because you need kind of a control, and it's hard to have a control. The control would usually be like the type of girl you're approaching, but every girl is kind of different. You can categorize for race, age, socioeconomic status, parts of the city they come from. It's hard to do that, and it's hard to just approach one when you got such a multicultural environment in Sydney.
Hmm.
And so that was the hard part. But you could kind of cluster Europeans, South Americans, I guess, Phobby Asians,
My
ABCs,
favorite.
Aussie girls, try to cluster them. And across the board, it was uh, the girls were giggling, high energy. They seemed on surface level to enjoy the approach. You would get numbers, a lot more numbers, more rapidly, easier. It felt great. But out of those numbers, the majority or a large percentage were flaky. They would reply once and then just disappear. They wouldn't turn up on dates.
So why is that? Are
And
you giving the girl like a player vibe so she doesn't want to respond because she thinks you're doing that to everybody and sounds like scripted?
I think because because it's so direct and so there's so much impact that you kind of scare the girl,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the opposite of what it feels like to the guy. The guy will feel like he's the girl's giggling and she's loving the interaction. Oh my god, she loved me. And guys would report back. I've heard it a million times. Guys just going, "Oh,
Yeah.
she loved my interaction. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about." And then a couple of days later, you find out that that girl didn't respond to the text.
Mm-hmm.
She was giggling because she was nervous, and you kind of scared her a little bit. And that's not me being like a leftist cuck,
Right.
feminist guy, because I don't care. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care what you do. I'm all about the results.
Mm-hmm.
And the from what I've seen, the giggle is just, oh, this is weird and little, and she giggles. It's kind of like a homeless person comes over and wants to have a conversation, and girl just like giggles.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, yeah, and she just wants you to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my number. She's held hostage. This is part of the reason why you get a lot of numbers,
Right.
especially when you jump in front of her. It's very direct. You state your intentions with telling her how beautiful she is and how much you want her, etc. Um, she knows what's up, and then she also knows that she needs to be very careful with a man that behaves that way. Giggle, try to calm the situation down, give away the number as like a token, get away, and then block the guy.
I see.
And that was very common. Now, it didn't happen all the time, but I would say it would happen most of the time.
Right.
And when you look at your results, if you're in one area, how many girls did you do that to over the course of, say, 6 months? Will you start running into the same girls that you scared and gave you a fake number?
Mm-hmm.
How long until one of them tweets about you or posts on Instagram about you? How long until something goes wrong?
Right.
And so I would much prefer to have plausible deniability.
Yeah.
And but we're getting away from the point. I guess you were asking about the direct versus the direct part. And yes, I did. I did quite a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a hack. It felt good to me as well.
So you tracked like hundreds of interactions in an Excel sheet. And
Mm-hmm.
what did your Excel sheet look like? You had the demographics, you had how you opened. What else
It was
was there?
pretty messy. It
Mm-hmm.
became messy towards the end there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because there was no real control.
Right.
Like I guess the method was there. It was how um, I guess like jump, make sure that she stops.
Yeah.
She cannot keep walking. And the amount of guys within the community, they believe that you must stop the girl.
Yeah. Square up.
Um, you must square up, body language, front on, eye contact. Never have a downward tonality.
I see.
You must come across like a bit of a bad boy,
Mm-hmm.
etc., etc. Then state your intention up front.
Even
You know,
physicality. They talk about physicality as well off the open.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and like being front on. And so if you think about it from their point of view, you got a guy front on, shoulder to shoulder, straight on with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as he stops you, then he like leans back and he has like this rocking motion with
Put
the feet. I don't
put the
know.
weight on the heel.
Yeah, he's usually carrying a water bottle and then wearing a leather jacket and some boots. He's got some rings on his, and he's staring you straight down the eye,
Yeah.
like, and he's trying to come across alpha when really he might be just scaring the girl,
Right.
and so she's giggling, and so on camera with the infields and with new guys that don't have any experience, it comes across like, oh, she was giggling. Wow,
Yeah.
she really liked me. So it's like a false sort of tell. oh, she crossed her legs, which I don't think is really a good tell. It's like
Hmm.
she's crossing her legs.
Yeah, so she
It's
can't
like
move.
she's kind of trapped.
Yeah.
Um, and giggles at you and then gives you the prize or the phone number, and then you get a few text messages out of her before she blocks you or just stops
Mm.
responding. Um, so
I feel like that's mostly done for the guy's ego. The person who's approaching is done for his ego. It's not done for the girl,
mm,
right? You have to
yeah,
consider
the,
that.
the amount of times I've heard guys online saying that you're a pussy, you're not a real man unless you go direct.
Mm,
But it's also mixed in with this weird sort of feminist twist on it, where if you're not stating your intention, you're kind of creeping out the girl because she needs to know what's up immediately.
mm,
Um, the other aspect of that is there's a lack of social awareness there, because what if I want to talk to her for a little bit and then she comes across crazy and I don't want to?
right,
I'm not interested in her at all.
right.
And that's the difference between, I guess, the type of guy that just looks at her as a piece of meat, and a guy that wants to actually get to know her,
Hmm.
which is not a, and then they state this sort of, unless you go super direct and you lay your intentions out on the, you're kind of a pussy. It doesn't really make sense. It's like, well, does that make me tough if I go around getting girls in headlocks or bashing them in the face?
Yeah,
Like, does that make me super alpha if I
yeah,
start bashing them or something?
yeah,
It's like, well, none of these guys have actually played rugby or got in a ring and like done any real fighting or even got in a street fight. The same
hmm,
guys that are saying that. So it's like,
yeah.
um, I doubt like Jake Shields would be saying something like that.
Jake
You
Shields,
know
who's
what
that?
I mean? No, Jake Shields is a MMA fighter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know him.
He's big on Twitter.
Okay, I'll check him out.
Yeah. Mm.
So yeah, when I was in the Bay Area, like I used to hear that opener. Hey, I just saw you over there. I was walking to get some coffee, and I thought you looked really nice, really cute. Everywhere.
Adorable. I think you're adorable. That's Austin
Oh,
Summers
there you
one,
go. Yeah.
which I can't. I think he's got that from Simple Pickup, because Simple
Hmm.
Pickup basically used the exact same structure.
Mm. I thought it was Tom Terrero that just came up with that structure. You look nice.
I think it. I thought it was all originated from Yad,
Oh,
and a few of those original guys,
yeah.
maybe Nick Krauser,
Hmm.
and then later on, because Tom Torero, although he's seen as one of the older guys in the community,
Hmm.
um, he wasn't one of the originals though.
Right.
It was mainly Nick Krauser and Yad and a few other guys that stayed underground. I think they developed, because it was Daygame.com, I think, that
Yeah.
developed the Daygame blueprint, I think they called it.
Right. Right.
And then from that, the marketing guys came in, like Tom Torero, who kind of learnt it from Yad and Nick Krauser, I believe.
I see.
And now there's, it just kept, the tree just kept getting larger and larger.
Mm.
Next thing you know, you got Simple Pickup making it mainstream, which is literally the exact same day game blueprint.
Right.
Um, and then you've got a bunch of guys like, I think the most notable one that I see a lot saying with his infields, just basically using the day game structure, which was originally Yad and Nick Krauser, was more recently is like Austin Summers.
Hmm.
And you can see I went through some of his infields, and it was basically just copy paste some of the words from Simple Pickup
Right.
in a way,
Right.
which was the same structure. If you break it down,
Hmm.
comes from Nick Krauser and Yad originally. It's funny, you can see some of the guys and the way they talk, the modern coaches, and you know exactly where they got all of their methods. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it wasn't devised out on the street by themselves, you know, in the lab, the pickup lab. They
Right.
weren't doing the research and coming up with their own stuff. They're just copy pasting some marketing, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's hard to imagine Yad as like an old school guy. He still looks like 20, you know? So,
Yeah, I
I'm
think even a
curious. Oh,
decade ago he was. Sorry.
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying. I think even a decade ago, Yad was already old school. He already had other like assistant coaches
Oh, I see.
coming along. You know, then there was John Matrix and
Mm-hmm.
Dave Dealer and all these other guys that were
Yeah.
they came along afterwards. I think you can put Tom Torero in that group as
Mm-hmm.
well.
So when did you
But yeah,
start following these guys?
um, I didn't know they existed until so I had my hip replacement
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I stumbled upon it was like a dating seminar,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, after the first hip replacement, I was like, I became more in touch with my mortality, and I was like, I don't have much. I realized how short life is,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, what would I like to do with my life?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a heroin junkie or a gambler. Um, the guy that wants to pick up girls.
Right. Yeah.
It's
You had 3 hip replacements so far.
I had 2 hip replacements and an experimental one.
Mm-hmm. When was the
So
first one? Like how old were you?
28,
20.
29, I think.
Okay.
28 was when I really started to feel the pain.
Mm-hmm.
So really, yeah, that was really bad. That took about a year on a waiting list until I had the hip replacement.
Oh,
Then I was fired from my job for being disabled.
what?
Um, yeah, Australia, like, there's no rules here.
Hmm.
Um, since they took away our guns.
Yeah.
For an American that talks about taking away their guns, it's like, now I know. I've seen what it's like.
Yeah.
Um,
So you
I
got
should
the
have been
hip replacement, and then you got fired. And what was the
able.
reason of like this like this pain or this surgery you had? You
Um,
mentioned that you did a lot of like sports.
yeah, at that time I was surfing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wasn't surfing to the level I was when I was a little bit younger. Like I was in my late 20s. I was a little bit slower, and the same as rugby too. So I'd already hyperextended my right knee,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so my right knee, I got a bit of bone on bone there. But what I was doing at that stage, I was playing and training off season with rugby players. So we would play, you know, touch football, train, do all that type of stuff in the summertime in between seasons. So I wasn't doing full on contact at that stage, although sometimes it would be a little bit when training. Um, Surfing and just doing um, yeah, because of the injuries, I even picked up table tennis. um, but yeah, the theory is that it was the hips wore out because of the just too much exercise. It could have been rugby or it could have been surfing, perhaps.
Right.
With surfing, you have to arch your back,
Mm-hmm.
and that could cause troubles with your hips.
Mm.
Um,
So
but
how's your pain level now? Like, do you have any pain?
no, it's pretty good now. It's
Nice.
actually pretty good. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Since the last hip replacement, it's yeah. But when I was day gaming all the time and doing nothing but that, and first discovered like all the day gamers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I yeah, the pain was bad. I couldn't walk more than say 25 to 50 meters without needing to sit down because of the heat would build up in my hips.
Right.
It would just get hot.
Hmm.
Um,
What shoes do you recommend for day game? Any soles?
which is comfortable shoes,
New
good
Balance.
walking shoes. Um,
Because
it,
yeah,
it
Tom Thoreau was like, wear this specific thing, wear some black boots. But I go out with my
no,
Hokas. You know Hoka?
no.
It's like a nerdy ortho. How do you say? Like it's a very comfy big shoe. It looks like a brick. I wear those during day game.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have my own
Yeah,
soles.
comfortable.
Hmm.
Mm. Yeah, something comfortable,
Yeah.
definitely. If um, you're doing a lot of walking. It depends on how long your sessions are. Like if I'm coaching now, um, guys would be, we'll like extreme cases, we do 14-hour days.
Oh,
So, you know, um,
so what time
I
do you
don't think
start? Like 14 hour. You start in the morning,
usually like 10 a.m. in the
10
morning,
a.m.
best time to start, because it's after peak hour.
Mm-hmm.
If we're doing like Monday to Friday, everyone's at work and then we can get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Start on a Sunday because it's quiet, and Sundays usually end early because everyone goes to bed early on a Sunday night,
Right.
and it's the flakiest time of the week
Mm-hmm.
because the girls are generally a little bit more stressed because they know they've got uni or work tomorrow on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Monday's when most people have heart attacks and die because they just don't want to go to work. So you start the immersion on a Sunday because you're just going to get flaky numbers anyway, and we just need to I just need to get them out there and
Right.
doing the basics.
How
Um,
long does your like boot camps last? Like you have the immersion program. Do you have like daily boot camps? Like one
no,
day?
just so I push 7 days straight,
Oh wow.
Sunday to Saturday night, and then it's basically 8 days. We'll go through on Sunday again and just like catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, it's I see it like a sport, like you have to drill this,
Mm-hmm.
and it depends on the guy. You see, before I discovered game, I don't know what my lay count was already at that stage, but it was quite high. I hit 50 lays before my 21st, 22nd birthday.
Wow.
And they were all then, and I don't think we really had mobile phones at that stage, so it was all through night game, day game, social circle,
Mm-hmm.
parties, etc. And almost all of them were like Aussie girls.
Mm-hmm. Party
Um,
girls.
although like these days, guys will see on my channel, there's a majority Asian girls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I grew up, you know, 6 pack, bench 100 kilos at 18 years old. I was surfing 9, 10 foot waves.
And how tall are you?
Uh, so I'm 5'8", 5'9".
Okay. Yeah. So you
Um,
had a high SMV already.
yeah, I wasn't tall, but I was average on average height. There's rugby. Like I've met famous rugby players that are my height.
Mm-hmm.
They weigh 100 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was kind of fit and, you know, like, I was working against myself. Would do weights, like kind of slow twitch muscles, and then I'd be out there doing a lot of cardio out in the surf,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's hard work actually
Yeah.
when you think about it. And you need to be bulky enough to take the hits, but you also need to be fast enough to try to break away or catch people. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot involved. Um, so um, and I faced the haka. Have you heard of the haka?
Haka, yeah, the Haka dance.
Yeah, I faced the haka 3 or 4 times. I think we had a touring team come to Australia. Um,
Do you have any footage of yourself like
I
doing?
wish I did. I
Oh
got I
man,
got
that would
like
be an ultimate
old.
THP.
It would be. I got old like photos or whatever,
Hmm.
but there was um we had uh my uh yeah, so I toured New Zealand,
Hmm.
played in it's called the Waikato Chiefs.
Mm.
So we played in that stadium there with all these lunatics ringing cowbells because they've got a lot of cows out there. They do nothing but like have cows and play rugby out in New Zealand.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, so growing up, there was, uh, yeah, I already had a relatively large body count by the time I started relatively early. I was like,
And you mentioned that you grew up around women. Like, how many women were in the house when you grew up? Like, let's say from I don't know 6 to 19, 20 years old. Like, did you always live with your family members in the same house?
so 6 years old, we were living in Maroubra ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
Maroubra is a kind of like a ghetto in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Russell Crowe, the actor,
Yeah.
the famous actor, he made a documentary called The Bra Boys,
Mm.
as in Maroubra, and it's called Maroubra, BRA, and so they call themselves Bra Boys, and they're surfers, and they get in the fights with the police,
Yeah.
and there's like stabbings and
You were part of
drugs.
them, or
No, I was never part of that. I was young, like I was a kid at
oh,
that
okay,
stage.
yeah.
And kind of luckily, my mother at that stage, living in that ghetto, she was dating a bikie. I remember there's a TV show in the United States where they have bikies, and they drive Harleys and
Yeah.
they deal
Like Hell's
drugs,
Angels type of thing. Are they related?
something like that.
I
Yeah,
see.
and he was a bikie, and they broke up.
Mm-hmm.
Something went wrong, and he decided he wanted to kill my mum.
Oh.
And so in the apartment was my mum, her two sisters, so there's three women all the same age, my grandmother, and at that stage, one of my aunties had only had a daughter. But then what happened was the other auntie had a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and so there were three three women of that age. Then there was three cousins of that age. Then my mum had a daughter as well, and that was my sister. And there was the grandmother. But growing up, there was just multi levels of generations of women.
Mm.
Um, I think a lot of the ghettos are run by women, which kind of makes sense when you think about it. Like failed single women end up in the ghetto, and
I
that's why
see.
it's so violent as well.
Yeah.
Um,
So that made you comfortable around women, like
mm,
you learned to be comfortable around women
mm,
at that time, huh?
yeah, and then when I remember there was a time there where the bikie was trying to bash down the door,
Mm-hmm.
and my mum, her two sisters, they're holding the door. Somehow he got the door open, like he broke it or something. And I remember my grandmother coming over the top with a knife, and I think she got him.
Yeah.
And then the police turned up, he got arrested, and then next thing I know, my mum and I were um, driving for hours into the country,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like hiding out in the country. And so, and my grandmother came to live for a short period of time, and things like that. And then eventually, when I entered primary school, was it primary school or a little bit older than primary school, almost high school, we came back to Sydney, like
Mm-hmm.
the city-ish area.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was mainly all women. It felt kind of felt I felt more comfortable talking to women than guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, like even in primary school, I'd talk to all the girls. It was just like easier just because I grew up around women.
Right.
It's like a lot of the guys, they would have brothers and dads, and the dad would be involved in the family.
Mm-hmm.
They have a different way of seeing the world, you
Mm-hmm.
see. It's better to have a man around the house than have a woman, trust me,
Yeah.
because they have no idea how the world is, you know.
Where's dad?
So around that time, my dad didn't was my mum, because she's a bit of a nightmare, difficult person to get on with.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of like cut me out, and my father kind of gave up on trying to visit me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Same.
As simple as that. He just kind of gave up on
Did
trying to
she
visit.
did she talk bad about your father?
Yeah, it's just what women do.
Right.
They talk bad about anyone that isn't part of their sort of group,
Mm-hmm.
and they're well, maybe it's just the women I grew up with. Like, if they feel like someone has more status within their little social group, their anxiety, they will start manifesting problems.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we shouldn't have women in politics.
Yeah. And you mentioned
uh,
that she was actually a beauty. What was it? She was like a
yeah, she
model or
was like
something.
in pageants and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember there being like all these like the things that they put over their chest,
Oh, I see.
the
Yeah.
things like she was entering those things. She knew that her looks were the only thing that really mattered.
Right.
I think with most of the women in my family growing up, they all kind of realized that.
Mm-hmm.
Two of my aunties I think they're either dead or dying at the moment. I'm not really that close to them.
Mm-hmm.
They were not very good aunties. They didn't visit me while I went in for my hip replacement.
Your
So
sisters, your mother's sisters.
yeah, I
Okay.
think they're dying at the moment. My
Mm-hmm.
sister told me recently that they're
Mm-hmm.
dying, um and and they kind of hated men.
Mm-hmm.
I remember growing up, there was they had two dogs. They had a female dog and a male dog,
Mm-hmm.
and they would say, "Oh, the male dog's bad."
Yeah.
And I remember growing up as a kid going, "What? Like the male dogs? They're dogs. They both kind of look the same to me."
Yeah.
But they would twist it like the women are good and the boys are bad,
Mm-hmm.
and they dominated sort of the family. I got a
Mm-hmm.
cousin who ended up becoming a great guy. Great guy. I wish I had him as a teammate more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up becoming a crack addict.
Oh,
I was like, because also you come up, you grow up in the ghetto, and you're surrounded by
it's easy.
trash people.
Right.
It's rare that someone like myself's able to stay out of it. Um, yeah,
So you moved to the countryside, and then after you moved to like the Sydney city area around what age?
like, yeah, good question. Was it maybe like 9 or 10?
9, 10.
Maybe
Still
nine,
very
around
young.
9 or 10. Moved in, and my mum took. It didn't take her long to line up a new sucker.
Mm-hmm.
He was a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
He was a simp.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a child, I could see he was desperate for a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and he definitely didn't know anything about the red pill. Let's
Right.
just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even like 9 or 10 years
That's
old, and
young.
I knew that he was getting himself so deep that he didn't know what he was getting himself into.
Wow.
Um, at the end, like their marriage only lasted about 10 years, and at the end, he got divorced. He lost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
His own daughter doesn't really speak to him very much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he was a mechanic that would drink every night.
Oh.
Typical sort of boomer that just benefited from the rise of the West, and are now part of the problem with the collapse of the West because they're holding all of these assets that
Hmm.
they didn't really earn.
Yeah. So, um, when did you start like attracting women first?
So I remember so when you have a lot of women around, you have a lot of women to gossip about dates and stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
remember I wasn't like 12, 13, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go see my auntie, or my auntie would be like babysitting basically, or I'd go away for the weekend at one of my auntie's houses or the other aunties, and they were perpetually single. The classic, men these days they talk about women being single and they think they've got it all worked out. Well, I've seen from beginning to end how that plays out, and right now they're dying.
Mm-hmm.
They're sick. They got like cancers. They're a little bit overweight. They got all these issues. They're lonely. They're sad. It's a real sad sort of ending. But I remember, like, I would visit, and one of my aunties, well, both of them, as I was growing up, would smoke a lot of weed too.
Wow.
The typical like party girl,
Mm-hmm.
smoke weed. They're kind of hot. Everyone wants to bang them.
Mm-hmm. These are the ones
So,
who are currently dying.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Um, they went rotten pretty early. I don't think by the time they were even 30, they really started looking 40 or 50. They went from
Mm-hmm.
25 to, as soon as they hit around 30, they started looking 50 overnight.
Right.
That type of life uh, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work for women.
So you would listen
And
to their dates and like how they talk about men.
yeah, so like I remember like I'd be there and I'd be like the only boy and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like a kid.
Yeah.
And they'll go, Dave, have you been masturbating today?
Oh.
I was like, oh fuck, and I'll go walk away. They're like giggling, and they're talking about, but because they would be smoking weed, they would literally ask my cousin, who was a year younger than me as well. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
do you masturbate yet? What have you done with guys? They would like talk to kids that way about things, and it was just so weird. But
Right.
when it came to like dating or like I got a date with a girl, um, all of the women would be very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So I do remember my first sort of date with a girl from high school, and they all got around and you know gave me some money to take it to the movies, and I had people to gossip about. My grandmother wanted to get on the phone with me
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of everything to women. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like build a business, get a PhD,
Right.
build something. That's the man's way of looking at it. Women are like, oh, dating's everything.
Right.
Um, mm. And I think not long after that, I was just, um, just like hookups at like house parties.
Mm-hmm. What age? Like high school or?
Yeah, like young, like
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even like, I don't know, 14, around 14, 15,
Mm-hmm.
16 was when I officially lost the virginity.
Yeah.
Um, a friend of mine, he wanted to go to a park to meet this girl that he liked. That girl brought along a friend.
Mm-hmm.
We met them, and then we picked up some alcohol, went to a house party. Then I slept with a friend.
What did she like about you?
Um, I don't think I even thought about that because she
Yeah.
was like just unattractive. It was
Oh.
just like she was just there. And I remember I used like who were a, just a random bedroom in the house party. It
Yeah.
could have been some guy or girl's bed, just have sex with a random girl on the bed. That was how house parties sort of happened
Mm-hmm.
back in the day.
And
I didn't even know
how
who.
was it like? My first time was like it felt weird. Like I didn't like it a lot. But on the fourth time,
Yeah.
fifth time, I started enjoying it. But when I first
Mm,
put it in, I was like, this is. It felt weird. It felt like too bony. She was kind of skinny, so I was like,
yeah.
this is weird. And then after fifth time, I started liking it. So how was it for you first time?
Yeah, I don't think it was very good either.
Yeah.
I
Is
don't
this
think it
big?
was. I don't think it was very good for anybody. I had a student recently who's in his late 20s and he was a virgin, so he reached out to me. I told him how to cold approach, and um, it's like day 3 or day 4. We pulled a flight attendant back to his bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets her in the bed, and he's watching TV. He's got a movie on, and they're in bed, and he wasn't able to seal the deal because he didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But we threw enough girls at the bedroom, and recently he lost his virginity. Now
Nice.
you know, he's pulling a lot more, and he's like uh, just from Daygame as well. And yeah, the first time he said was just super weird. He got a like just basic stuff. Got a hand job first, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hold both of her shoulders and see if she will go down on her knees,
Yeah.
see if you can get a head job, and just like ease into it,
Yeah. So
and
you teach
eventually
these
lock.
things as well, like how to,
Well, to some extent, if the cold approach and the pull
mm-hmm.
is one part of it, but when you start throwing a lot of girls at his bedroom and he's not sealing the deal, but when he relays what happened to me, it sounds like the girl was down, that he just didn't do anything and he didn't know what to do, so he kind of froze up.
Right.
So I have to give some sort of guidance there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and another guy a couple days ago, he lost his virginity too. He's a little bit of an older guy.
Nice.
Some guys are virgins at an older age these days.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Um, but yeah, he was actually he actually said afterwards. He goes, "I can see why you dedicate your life to this. This could be addictive."
It is addicting. Yeah.
And he showed me the photos of the girl. She was hot.
Nice.
So, and then the other guy got back to me literally today, and he said, "Is it bad that 5 out of 6 attempted pulls I don't pull, and I only get one in every 6?" And I'm like, dude, like, there's guys out there not pulling at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's day gamers out there that can never pull from the street. They've been doing it for years. They might get one same day lay in one entire year, especially in Sydney.
Yeah. Sometimes I
So I'm
see the
like,
Facebook posts of someone asking a question. He's like, I approached 300 day game approaches and no number closes, like 5 number closes, no results. So yeah, there are
yeah,
guys like that out there.
yeah. I had to explain to him. I said, look, like you're getting proper mentorship from a degenerate that like lived this. So like
Mm-hmm.
your your expectations are a little bit higher than, like, think about how reality for most men is. I had
Mm-hmm.
to give him that talk.
Yeah.
Like, let's step back into the reality.
Yeah.
I'll show you a video of because we were in we I was actually with him when he approached the flight attendant. We went to the Opera House and uh, the um, the Harbour Bridge in Sydney CBD just before he pulled her.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you a video. You'll be like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
yes. I was like,
Nice.
he got a hot one.
Nice.
Got lucky,
Did
you
he
know.
tell that he's a virgin?
Yeah, yeah. So like obviously like I'm not here to judge. It's not there's no toxic competitive environment. I'm as like a sounding board, like, or in a way sometimes it's almost like a counselor for game,
Mm-hmm.
because some guys will have a lot of things they want to talk about,
Yeah.
and nobody at work, nobody at uni, no, none of their friends are really going to be thinking, "Oh, poor you, you're not getting laid." No, like nobody cares.
Yeah. Nobody.
Um, and approaching girls is seen as creepy or even rapey.
Yeah.
So basically, the social conditioning in the West is stay single, pay your taxes,
Mm-hmm.
not only work Monday to Friday, but work on a Saturday and a Sunday. and die alone. Basically, don't have any kids, so the government can steal all of the wealth that the boomers have. So it's a great setup that the government has, but it's not real. And even like male dominated, like macho men, alpha males that play rugby, you try to talk to them about picking up girls, um, they're gonna think it's weird too because they're also brainwashed into the whole bread and circuses. And the modern day circus is soccer and rugby and sports and drinking alcohol and just ignore what the government's doing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so you talk to a guy about that, they're going to think that you're a creep,
Right.
and they might start building animosity towards you if they find out that you're having success. Um, they might be bigger than you, more jacked than you. They might think they can fight better than you or beat you up. They might have a better job, have more money, better car. So in their mind, you have no right to be getting hot girls or hotter girls than them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
It's rigged.
Mm. And it's funny, there'll be guys that will want dating advice. They'll follow like my channel,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't see any value in getting any coaching. Um,
Are you tracking
which
what demographics, like which countries are like tracking like your YouTube channel, watching your YouTube channel?
I can check that and tell you.
Yeah.
I think there's a way I can check the analytics and figure out where they're coming from. I think the majority is from Australia, though.
Okay, that's good.
I think a large amount of the people that would follow my channel, they would know about my previous work when I would talk about geopolitics.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had a guy email me literally a couple of hours ago saying, "Look, I was following you a decade ago when you were doing all the geopolitics, and I bought your course now that I've got your dating stuff." And he wants to do a call to figure out um, what he can do because it's kind of connected. It's almost directly connected.
Right.
People think it's not, but it is. You know.
And you teach online as well, right? Like some of your
Mm.
students, they go in the field and you hook them up with a like an AirPod or something, and you like give real time feedback in the field, right?
Mm. Yeah, some guys they will will go live,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just sit on the phone while they're, and they can have a camera going as well,
Mm-hmm.
and but mainly just like audio.
Yeah.
Let's just say they hit the mall. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna do a couple of hours, and I'll go for a walk myself too, and
Nice.
so I can start up interactions myself,
Mm-hmm.
and they can listen to mine as well.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
So it's not just them doing a DG session and me listening in.
Nice.
I'll say, hang on, there's a set. I'm going to do a set. What was that stupid opener you used? And let me show you how to do it properly. And then I'll
Yeah.
go open and what was that stupid thing you just did? Let me prove why that's stupid. And then I'll go do it and like kind of,
That's really cool.
because sometimes they need to hear what they just did to recognize how bad it is.
Yeah.
Some of the things that, but it's fun too.
Yeah.
You know,
I like that
this is
because like you're showing like a lot of coaches just
fun.
tell you what to do, and they tell you, hey, say this, say that. But I
Mm,
want my instructor to like demonstrate it for me first,
mm.
and then see like
Like
okay,
if
what
he's
kind of
coming across like, you know, too too many, some guys they're just like ha 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 and nervous and that, and or they don't talk enough,
mm-hmm.
and whatever they do wrong, I'd like to get into a set as soon as I can and over exaggerate what they just
Yeah,
just did wrong,
yeah,
so they can hear it. They're like, "Oh, I got it. Yeah,
yeah.
okay."
What was the worst opener you heard from your students?
Well, it's not really like openers
Uh-huh.
that is really the issue. I don't think. It's just not being present
Mm.
after the opener.
Mm-hmm.
The girl mentions, oh, she's going like classic George Street. She just finished work. She's going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talks about something totally unrelated to that because he's got the can structure in his mind and he's not really present. The heart pounding, the adrenaline's pumping, and so he can't hear anything
Mm-hmm.
and he can't listen. He hears what she's saying, but he doesn't process it.
Mm-hmm.
And then or like she's mid sentence and the adrenaline's pumping, so he just goes into motor mouth sort of mode and just
Right.
talks over the top of her,
Right.
often with a topic that's unrelated,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of hilarious when you record your sets and you listen to what you're doing. Um, as because literally you don't need much. The first couple of words that she says, you take into account the way she's dressed, where she's going, her sort of demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough information there to talk for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while for guys to get this. This is why like I push 7 days as an immersion
Mm-hmm.
because I need a lot of time they need a lot of time to get the experience up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really do it in 1 or 2 days. Those like weekend boot camps, and then you go back to work on Monday.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, for a decade, I've seen guys come back all hyped up. It's almost like an Anthony Robbins sort of weekend. You pay $20,000 to learn from Anthony Robbins and a whole bunch of gurus. You get hyped up.
Yeah.
They get you jumping around, high fiving other people in the crowd. Yeah, we're all gonna get rich.
Do the crab dance in the bar.
Yeah.
You know that? The crab
No.
dance. Uh,
No.
the
Like,
real social dynamics. They they were like making their students do the crab dance. They would just go into this crab dancing motion, or like they would like lay on the floor in the bar or something like that. They would like pump up their emotions, right? And then yeah, they're back to uh, their work on Monday. I saw a lot of them
yeah,
in the Silicon Valley. I saw Jeffy.
yeah.
I saw Julian. He had like a boot camp.
I like Jeffy because I read his book.
Yeah,
He had this
Nine
like
Ball.
upbringing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
crazy because I just downloaded that today. Nine
really?
Ball. Yeah, it's called Nine Ball, right?
Yeah, I forgot the name of it,
It's
but
yeah,
he's a great writer.
he's great.
Like his vocabulary, like it's almost like did he write that?
Mm-hmm.
But then you listen to his podcast. This guy's switched on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I think just because I had a shitty upbringing as well, I identify with that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like Jeff. That's I like him the most in that group. Probably Jeffy
Mm.
and who else? I used to like the old Julian stuff. You know, like the old one,
Yeah,
like not now, but like the old like pimp days.
unfiltered before he
Mhm.
yeah.
Got banned from your from Australia, right?
Did he?
I
The
think
thing
so.
is, Australia is the Soviet Union.
Uh-huh.
It is bad.
Right.
It's a really bad place to live. It's getting worse every day.
Mm.
It's legit a communist nightmare, Orwellian nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see.
Um, like they banned uh, Candace Owens recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we live in a dictatorship,
Yeah.
and Candace was criticizing a certain demographic that you're not allowed to criticize.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was it.
I love.
She asked the wrong questions, and so the Australian government that is run by that demographic
Mm-hmm.
and the United States, because we're literally Australia could end up having its own sort of genocide one day. It's
Mm-hmm.
really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really bad.
I watched
During the
the
lockdown,
interview with Mia, MIA. Do you know that artist? You should watch it.
No, who is she? Australian?
I think she's. I don't know where she's from. I think she's from USA or UK. A singer, MIA. Really, Paper Planes. You know? Do you know that song, Paper Planes?
Shit, what's her name?
MIA. Mia.
Oh, is she Asian?
Uh, I think black mix.
But is she Australian?
Not sure about that. Her accent sounds a little bit like UK.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
probably
So
from
she.
UK.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had an interview which they talk about those things.
Paper planes.
Paper
It
planes.
reminded me. I was thinking there's an Australian that became famous actually.
Mm-hmm.
Not like super duper famous, but she had a couple of songs that kind of went off,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh my god, I hooked up with that girl when I was
Nice,
younger.
nice.
I was thinking, is that the girl that I hooked up with?
Yeah. Before game or
This was before game. It was just like natural type stuff,
I see.
going to parties and things like that.
Nice. So I wanted to ask you about like the guys. So you're comfortable around women, and that can bring up a lot of problems in school. Like, a girl acts friendly towards you, and then maybe she, uh, one guy has a crush on her, and then it turns into bullying. Like, did you ever experience that where guys were like bullying you?
Well, I think like I was getting beaten up at home.
Mm-hmm.
So my stepfather was just a drunken alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he would.
The mechanic guy.
We were on a we were on a boat once, and he said, "I'll give you $100 if you jump off the boat." And I remember him going, "Oh, you're a pussy if you don't jump." And it was like the sea, and the boat was like going over big waves. It was like the sea. We're in the sea.
Yeah.
I would have probably died.
Yeah.
He had some friends wanted sinkers, like the big lead sinkers,
Mm-hmm.
and he taught me how to melt the lead
Mm-hmm.
while I breathe in the lead, like he tried to poison me.
What?
Um, the only time I remember it was when my cousin was there. I would wash the dishes every day because I was like basically a slave.
Mm-hmm.
Like kids wash dishes, but I was a slave.
Right.
I was like, I had to vacuum, I had to paint the fence, I had to garden, I had to do everything before I'd have any freedom. And I washed the dishes. My cousin, who grew up mainly around my aunties who were like free flowing and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
she then had to wipe the dishes with a tea towel.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't know where a cup would go in the cupboard because she was, I don't know, stupid.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where to put it. She didn't know where to put it. Sorry. And then my stepfather come in and he's like, "Okay, well, you're gonna have to put it away." So it kind of defeats the purpose of her even being there. I might as well do the whole process. And I go, "Oh, that noise. Oh, that was as close to dissent I would ever be allowed at home." Grabs me by the neck and puts his fists in my head and starts screaming, "I'm going to punch your fucking head in." And so
How many years did you take this?
like a decade almost.
Really?
Yeah. And so because I'm answering your question, was I getting bullied? So you can imagine when the guy that was bullying you at home is that big. I would go to school and there was guys bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
But also at the end of my street, we were at the top of a street. You go down one street, I go down again, and then you turn left, and then you go straight down towards the beach.
Mm-hmm.
We'll live relatively close to the beach. And at the bottom of the street was one kid who was one of the most popular kids in school. And then you go down another street, then there was his cousin who was like one of the other popular kids. Then you go down another one, there was like one of the most popular kids in another school. He didn't go to the same high school. And I would, like early morning, like 5 a.m. in the morning, because I just hated being at home, I'd go bang on their windows and go, "Get the fuck up. We're surfing. 5 a.m. They're like, oh, I'm like, get up, you pussy. And I'd go bang on the windows and wake them all up, and then would all drag them all down to the beach.
Nice.
And so um, when something bad would happen at school, it wouldn't seem like a big deal. I remember once I was talking to a group of girls, which is in line with your question. Actually, I remember, and there was this guy who was like, he was like a popular kid that just came to, it was like high school. It was like, we're like 17 or 18, we're kids, you know? And I'm talking to a bunch of girls, and he pulls down my pants in front of the girls. He tries to dack me, you know? And I turn around, I was like, and he runs away all giggling. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to fuck him up. And I remember the next day he comes over and just apologizes. Because I think it was known that like I was getting beaten up at school, and like I would probably do something crazy.
That's good. I like that a lot because
But I never did anything. Like I never did anything. But I think when in high school, you know, you have the lines of, you'd have two captains and they got two football teams, and they're gonna pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not
You'd have two
familiar
guys.
with it, but I can imagine. Yeah.
You know, like in high school, you'd have two. They would say, okay, who's going to be captain, and someone would be captain. The other guy,
Yeah.
you know, like the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Fighter. What happens is you would have two fighters. You know, John Jones and you know Chael Sonnen. You could probably watch that one, The Ultimate Fighter. It's an awesome series. And they start and they have a line of like fighters, and then one person chooses one fighter, then the other guy chooses, and he just, based on what they can see. Growing up, I was always like chosen first or second, basically.
Because you're athletic as well.
I think it was mainly just like being, you know, having all of the pressure at home more than anything. Like, and so I never really saw myself as popular. I was always like under pressure, you know. I was under pressure all the time. It wasn't really that enjoyable. So to answer your question, not really in high school. A lot of the troubles happened a little bit later on, where like I'd be at a party and there would be a girl that I would hook up with. And I didn't know that a friend of mine or like an acquaintance of mine liked that girl. And then someone else will go, hey, look, he just hooked up with this guy's girl. I was like, how was I supposed to know? Like, do something, you know? So he was probably talking to the girl, was probably trying to get to know her, but not really pulling the trigger. Like, hey, let's hang out. He didn't, like, as soon as the party started, get in there and try to hook up with her. You know, it's common with men generally. And I think also, like, there were times there where a guy would have a girlfriend, and then the girlfriend would have like a few drinks or something, or have like just like social things, and I couldn't help but just like chat to her. And when all the other guys are kind of awkward and not wanting to talk to the girl because they're used to hanging out with guys, and I could talk to the girl all night, then she just becomes attracted to me just because I'm able to talk to her better, have longer conversations than even her boyfriend. And I wasn't trying to pick up the girl, wasn't even attracted to her. I just wanted to chat. And, you know, this is also a part of game. You don't really need a lot of tactics. You just need to be able to, you know, talk to her about things that she's interested in and have an enjoyable conversation. You'd be surprised with practice how far that can go, you know?
Small talk.
So that got me in trouble. Sorry to cut you off, but that got me in trouble a lot too, because then the boyfriend would be angry at me, but he wouldn't actually say it to me. Then someone else would tell me, and I'm like, oh shit, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, and I didn't hook up with the girl. I was just talking to the girl, and now they've got some sort of issue, and it's because he didn't have the ability to properly talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a problem with a lot of guys these days too, just not feeling comfortable around women. And you can get it, you can get there just with even if it is just short cold approaches and maybe getting some friend groups together,
You
doing
can't
some
or you
meet.
can?
You can,
Oh, you can. Okay,
definitely.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
you can.
And do you
But
teach like on your boot camps? Do you teach like how to actually like do small talk like in your boot camps?
I think just by osmosis they will learn.
I see.
Just surround yourself with as many. I've had some guys that um didn't they struggled to even have proper their social awareness was really low, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
they struggled to talk to girls just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so my recommendation was through cold approach, you can also just line up some of the girls as actual friends.
Mm.
You can even start texting them. They can kind of let you down easy by saying that they're not that interested. Then you can kind of use that and go, okay, well, if I can't try to get a date, let's see if we can be friends.
Wow.
And then you can recycle that number into a friend, and then you can get some experience as a friend. And next thing you know, you're comfortable talking to her,
Mm.
and then that can translate into being comfortable on a date. Next thing you know, you've got a rotation of girls. You're just comfortable around women again.
I never heard an instructor talk about this. Like,
Really?
yeah, never heard about this where you try to get a
It's
girl as
kind of
your
common
friend.
sense now, isn't
Yeah,
it,
it
when
makes a
you
lot of
hear
sense when you talk about it, but I never thought
it?
about it. It's always like, get the number, get laid, go for the pool.
Do you know how many guys will come out and I'll go talk to that five? So, I can't talk to girls that I'm not attracted to. I'm
Mm,
like, do you talk to your mum? It's like,
yeah.
well, I don't want to fuck. Well, you don't want to fuck the five either.
Mm,
You want to talk to her and get some practice talking. You
mm-hmm.
can have some average looking girls as friends. You can flip the script on them and friend zone girls for a change.
Mm, I see. Yeah, that makes a lot
And
of sense.
and and a girl that is a five is still a girl. It's still practice that can definitely give you points towards getting a nine.
Madison had this opener, which I really loved. RSD Madison. His opener
Yep.
was "Hello, practice."
Hello, practice.
Yeah,
Okay.
hello, practice.
And then she asks you, what does that mean? And
She probably doesn't hear it. That you're in the club, and then makes that used to make me laugh. Whenever I go to like a loud bar, I would just be like, "Hello,
mm,
practice," and then that would make me smile, and then I would continue my opener from there.
yeah.
But I think that was a great opener
Mm.
in the club.
Well, if it's a mindset thing, like he's telling himself that this is just practice and not
Mm,
take it too seriously,
yeah,
it's like an inner game sort of hack for himself more than anything, maybe.
yeah. So,
Mm.
Dave, I want to ask you this last question. So, I'm a nerd. I really care about like systems, like techniques, step by step instructions. I know you don't really
Yeah.
teach that stuff, but I want
And
to,
you told me you know a lot more about these systems than I do.
yeah. So I want you to break down like a successful day game approach. This can be real life, or you can make up like something similar. Like, what does
Mm.
that look like? Like the opener. Like, what do you observe before opening? How do you open the body language? How do you transition
Like,
into the next thing?
okay.
Can you break down one successful approach that you did recently? So I want to, and if I cut you off, I
Um,
ask you questions. Like,
yeah.
I want to get more detail on that.
So, okay. So, well, there's two. Like, there's the shopping center and then there's the street. What one would you like?
Street.
So, there's one on the street where I just came out of 7-Eleven, as you do
Mm-hmm.
when you have a coffee addiction,
Yeah.
and you're going through it. You've got like, I wouldn't necessarily do big sessions or anything like that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing. I was just going for a walk, grab a coffee. And this cutie was across the road going down the hill,
Mm-hmm.
and I crossed the road. I get alongside her. I
Are
didn't do a
you
lot of
you are behind
cold
her?
reading.
You are behind her
Uh, uh,
when you first
well,
see her?
briefly when I had to cross the road and then catch up to her
I
and
see.
get alongside her,
Uh-huh.
and it's like walk and talk. We're both side by side,
Okay. So you're over the
and I was
shoulder?
like basically shoulder to shoulder, yeah.
Okay.
And I get alongside, and I turn, and my like, there's no fancy opener. It's just, hey, how you going?
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, hey. I'm like, um, you know, I think it was basically like, oh, it looks like we're going the same direction. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh. I was like, so where are you going? I'm going down here. And she was going shopping for dresses or something.
And this is like
And
you're trying to get the logistics?
so, yeah, getting logistics, like where you going right now? What are you doing right now? If you can dribble that in with a little bit of playful banter, I think that. So, okay, so when you think about an interaction, okay, let's just step back. Let's just forget about all the PUA stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's do HV.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Qualify.
let's do some fancy PUA thing. Like after you do that fancy PUA thing, how do you get laid? Like how does that move the interaction forward or get you closer? Well, really, when you really think about this, it's like playing football. When you've got two sides of the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
The amount of PU pickup dudes that it's almost like they're next to the goalie on their side, their goalie,
Yeah.
and they're trying to score from their end of the field, but they need to score over here. So logistically, they're in the wrong end of the field,
Mm-hmm.
and some sort of that you can play around and do some fancy moves or whatever, but the goal's over here.
Yeah.
So I just think about it that way. It's like I need to know if she's even available right now. I need to know if how many hours she's kind of free, what she's doing, and so guys will look for that for instant dates. But if she's busy right now and you can't go for an instant date, there's a time constraint. She's going somewhere. There's a time constraint. You got a few minutes. There's a friend turning up. She's got to get on a bus. Then what you do is you still need logistics. You need to know, like, does she live in this area? Does she work in this area? And the reason why is because when you're texting her, you need to figure out where the date's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
What if she lives half an hour away and this is the first time she's been here in a year? She's never in this area where you cold approached her. So when you get the number and you try to line up a date in this area, you're making it difficult for her to come to this area to meet you again
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know where she lives or whether she even comes to your area ever.
Right.
And so by making it more difficult for her, you're more likely to get rejected.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So that's like instant date versus just number closing.
Okay. So let's go back to this interaction. So you're over the shoulder. You say we're going. Looks like we're going to the same direction. And then you say like, what are you up to right now? Something like that, right? You say, where are you going?
Yeah, so she said that she's going shopping.
Mm-hmm.
And I, in a playful way, I go, okay, I'll come shopping with you. And
Yeah.
she said something like, oh, really? I go, yeah, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? And then she's like, oh, it's down here. I was like, oh, okay, I'll come for a walk. And she seemed okay with it. Boom. So
Nice.
what I've done there is I've got logistics and started putting her on a bit of the classic compliance ladder.
Right.
I got a bit of compliance, easy compliance. I'll walk you to the shopping place where you're going to buy a dress.
Mm-hmm.
I get there, then I'm like, need some help? How about I help you? She's like, yeah, okay. And
Mm-hmm.
by that stage, we've been chatting
Mm-hmm.
for multiple blocks,
Mm-hmm.
and I go in there and I tell her that what you do is I'll distract the person, the attendant,
Mm-hmm.
and you steal the dress. um, and she's trying on dresses, and I'm looking at the dress. I'm like, oh, it's okay. What about this one?
Yeah.
And then didn't end up buying anything. We went to a few different dress shops,
Mm-hmm.
and then we ended up at a perfume place that sold fancy perfumes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she ends up buying some perfume, and then at that stage, it's kind of assumed that we're shopping and hanging out together.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of locked it in.
So are you like asking questions? Are you like qualifying her? Like, what do you do? Like, um, why this area? Like, like qualifying questions, like mystery method A3, basically.
Qualifying, as in, well, I don't understand.
Like, you in mystery method, there's A1, A2, A3. A1 is open, A2 is DHV, and in A2, you're trying to do female to male interest. So you're getting her interested in you. And A3, it's qualifying. So you're kind of like getting to know her a little bit, but in a way where you're asking like more open-ended questions, like why, or are you good at cooking, whatever, are you good at something, like why did you become a
Mm,
nurse, why did you pick this dress. It can be that kind of questions where it's the qualifying
yeah,
stage of the pickup mystery method.
yeah, maybe sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're shopping, I have an unlimited amount of things to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't raise her guard. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
talking about shopping and perfume.
Right. So you don't even
So
think about those things.
they're not. I wouldn't even raise any sort of. It might even get her thinking. I like, sure, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe that would work. If you've run out of things to talk about, I've already got the logistics and I've got enough compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm just kind of buying time. Then yeah, all those things can kind of matter. But am I really qualifying her for a girlfriend off the cold approach? It might be moving a little bit fast. If you're in Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
build qualifying kind of, it can make out that you're kind of looking for something more than just getting to know her.
Yeah,
And that can come across a little bit desperate, even though you're making out that you're the choosing one,
I see.
because you shouldn't even be thinking about that. And they probably don't want to think about that either with the guy that they just met.
I see.
Um, and so just talking about, shopping and perfumes and uh, you have an unlimited amount of things to talk about with that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we did that, we ended up shopping. It was this. It's like not Paddy's. It's like called Paddy's Market,
Mm-hmm.
Market City in Sydney CBD, and there's a just like uh, it was like yeah, just like little things that she wanted to buy or
Yeah.
look at. We didn't end up buying anything though. It's like a little market that's kind of underground, and then we went up the top and we're looking at a few things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we ran out of things to do, and that was when I needed to go for the big compliance of I need to get her on a train or a bus from the city to my place at Bondi. And
Yeah.
it turns out that she lived the opposite direction
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted to take the perfume home and she didn't want to go there. And so I tried multiple times to try to make that happen. So then what do? I'd say most guys, depending on, their self-belief, they might see that as a bit of a rejection. But I just was like, okay, well, I'll catch the train back to her place
Yeah.
and I'll try to make it happen. And that's really just problem solving live. Because if you have a set sort of pull in method, I only meet the girl, then I take this form of transport and I get her home, and you're not fluid and able to problem solve, then you're going to fail more often than not. So under those circumstances, I decided, okay, well, I'll come back to your place then. We'll drop off the perfume and maybe we can have lunch together or something.
Did she already
And
ask you to come, or you just said it?
no, I'm kind of leading and getting the compliance, but she's telling me what she's comfortable with at any stage.
I see.
So if I got the compliance to just get on a train back to my bedroom, I would have taken it early on.
I see.
But I didn't. She didn't want to do that. She wanted to go back to her place. She wanted to drop the perfume off, and there's probably a few other reasons why. She just didn't want to go. She wanted it nice and easy back to her place. I'm like, okay, well,
How many hours did you spend together in that mall?
probably, shopping in the two dress place in the mall were probably only maximum 20 minutes.
Okay. Okay. So short.
It wasn't very long.
I see.
Probably only 5 to 10 minutes in each of the stores, like trying on the dress, doing it the next place, maybe another 10 or 15 minutes maximum in the perfume place before she bought some perfume.
Mhm.
Walk a little bit further on, it was just like bounce from the the clothing store to another clothing store. There might have been another one in between, and then there was the perfume place, and then there was Paddy's Market,
Yeah.
and then from there it was straight to the train back to her place. We get to her place. I wait downstairs because she's got a roommate. She takes the perfume up, and then I'm down the bottom with a girl that is hot, half my age, 20-year-old. And I'm thinking, what do I do? And I think there's a park nearby.
Mhm.
What I can do is there's a pub nearby too. I'm thinking 20-year-old would like to is more likely to have a drink. And I think I'm old enough to be a dad, and I hadn't dyed the greys out. So it was quite obvious that I was old enough to be a dad.
Yeah.
How about I take it to a pub, maybe get a drink? We went to the pub. We got some like fish and chips. And then I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do because how am I going to make this happen? The compliance was relatively good. There were just some things that she wasn't willing to do, like get on a train back to my place. And so then after eating in the pub, we bought a 4-pack of these little drinks.
Mhm.
I'll send you a video after this of the girl too.
Yeah.
So I got a little video. Like 4 like little, like not strong alcoholic drinks. Just if anything, it's more just to buy me time. I'm just trying to buy time till I figure out how I'm going to make this happen.
Mhm.
And at this stage, we'd been together for quite a few hours, and it was early afternoon. And we're in the park. We're having a drink now, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I thought, okay, well, I'll try to wait till the sun goes down. Maybe we can sleep. I can sleep with her in the park or something. I can't go into the apartment.
Yeah.
And as the sun started going down, we started walking back to her apartment, and we're running out of time. I need to somehow figure out how to make this happen. And instead of taking the main street, I was like, oh, let's take this right and a left, and there's like an alleyway. We walk down the alleyway, and then I made out with her against the wall out the front of some doctor's surgery.
Yeah.
And then I'm totally out of time because then we've got to walk from there back to her apartment, get back to her apartment, and we're holding hands. And then she's like, oh, there's a toilet here. Oh, I was like, oh, there's male and female toilets in the bottom level in the car park of her apartment, and there's a disabled toilet in between, which is also like a family one where you can like if the mother needs to change nappies, like it's
Yeah.
a big room.
Big
It's
room.
actually a
Yeah.
really massive room. It's massive. And I'm like, oh, and I took her in there, and
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
the rest is kind of history. And then she went up, and then I saw her again
Mm-hmm.
like a week later.
Mm-hmm.
So um, how does that look to you? As like, what can you take out of that as a model, as a strategy?
Yeah. So I see some stuff there. You obviously open over the shoulder. You're going in the same direction, which buys you time. You're being playful, being
Yeah,
having
makes it
banter.
easier to hook too.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you go to the mall, um, having, going to, it's all compliance. Like, she's testing out, she's wearing that dress. I look at
Yeah.
that all as like compliance. It seems like at this point you both know each other. And so you go to the fish and chips place. And I assume you would start to sexualize there at the bar, right?
Mm, no,
Mm.
no, not really. Like I might put my hand on her knee.
Mm-hmm.
I might touch her lower back a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
but not.
verbally sexualize?
No,
Okay.
no, not really. It depends on. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it at all. It doesn't matter who it is, even if it's a European girl. Even if it's the type of girl that people would say you should be sexualizing with. I don't think it's needed, to be honest.
Okay, so she kissed you first then?
No, no, no. So when we're walking back to her apartment, we're holding hands.
Yeah.
So it's just small stuff. And then we're walking down the street, and then I see like kind of like a garage. just it's like just off the
Yeah.
footpath, and it's like dark, so it's not like I'm making out with her in the middle of the street. And so there's like a wall there. I take her over there, holding her hand, and then put her back against the wall, and she's 100% like just okay with it, and then make out with her against the wall, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get to gauge where she's at too.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot more information because really, off the approach, you're not really just coming out and DHVing and telling them how awesome you are. Your job is gathering information.
Right.
You need information. The everybody knows that the more that she talks, the more she tends to like you.
Yeah.
And if she can tell you her life story, she feels like you know her.
Mm,
And if you know her really well, then you get into her pants
I
first.
see.
Um, and if you're gathering information about her early in the interaction, and then late in the interaction, or even via text or on the first date, you bring up something personal about her that she told you and you remember that, boom,
Oh,
you're
nice.
in.
Nice.
And that all comes back to the best speakers or talkers are the best listeners.
Right.
So the small talk part is really just you get her talking about herself, and she tells you her life story, and you bring it up and you let her know that you remember it, then you're ahead of most other guys.
Mm,
And it's often the guy that, you could be married and there's some fucker down the street that's best friends with your wife, and he's going to listen to all of her stories.
yeah.
She's going to end up sucking his dick while
Oh,
she's married to you.
that's why the psychologists they sleep with their
Mm.
patients.
Yeah, that could be a factor too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
being a good listener, with women definitely helps,
Mm,
because it really is. That is so powerful, and I still don't know why, but if you can bring up something in her past that you know and that she shared with you and she didn't share with many other people, and you bring it up later on, not in a bad way, but you bring it up,
yeah,
you were listening when most people weren't listening.
I see. Yeah, that can be
So
deadly.
so she trusts you. She
Yeah.
trusts you more than the other people in her life, and fast.
I'm gonna
So
check out
so
this
God,
part. It's really good.
mm, I think I wrote an article about this, just being the, you know, it's like the dark art of like stealing guys' girlfriends. It's kind of sick.
Yeah.
I've actually still got a girl. She literally just messaged me. She's like, how's the trip going? How you going? Um, Literally like 5 years ago, I met her when she had a boyfriend, and she wouldn't even hold my hand. But I'm like, oh, it's okay. We'll meet for a quick little coffee. Meet for like 5 minutes. And I just slowly opened her up, and thing you know.
Is that in your book or it's on your website? The article.
I think it's definitely on the website.
Okay.
I think it's just called How to Steal Someone's Girlfriend. It's really bad though. Like I
Dark
make it
arts.
clear.
I see.
I make it clear that you shouldn't be doing this.
Okay.
And also, like the girl that was messaging me, if she leaves a boyfriend for a guy that is playing these games, I'm fully aware that she's not girlfriend material. So I'd always keep her at arm's length. But she's still hooked to this day,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. We'll link it below if you guys want to check it out. But also, Dave,
Mm,
you're. I'm going to, yeah. Let's put the links below as well for the online coaching and in-person coaching. Online stuff sounds really good. Like you're in the field and you're just like getting real-time feedback. We'll put the link
mm.
below.
And I think part of it also is with guys, there's a lot of like psychological things there. Not that I'm a psychologist or anything, but it's like I got a date coming up. I'm having a lot of rejection at the moment. I got these feelings about why I'm not having success. I'm not feeling too happy.
Yeah.
Having someone to talk about those things is valuable.
Yeah.
Someone that's like trying to guide you towards, getting a girlfriend. Um, Someone you can at any moment. You got a text thread. You can send it to them,
Yeah.
and they'll look at it as soon as they can and give you feedback immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Or you do have a date coming up, and you got someone that you can reach out to. Even in the communities, there's not a lot of wings there that you can rely on to be like on call all the time.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? You posted even in some of the groups. Oh, what do you think about my text thread? And you're gonna have toxic guys like make fun of you.
Yeah.
So having someone that's just the online coaching, it's like a resource for someone that's like-minded and kind of gets it and has the experience that they can help you out as well. It's multifaceted. I think it's useful, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
We'll
yeah.
yeah, we'll post those links below. So if you
But yeah,
guys
there's a
want to
lot
check,
of game stuff I'd love to talk about. There's a lot of game stuff I'd love to discuss.
yeah, let's
Night
keep
game.
doing this. Let's
One of
keep doing these
them.
episodes. Next episode, we can talk about like night game. And I know, like, I can just ask you questions. Like, I've been gaming for 10 years, mostly technical stuff. Like, I even build like flow charts and stuff like that. So I
See,
might like,
that's why. Mm,
yeah, that's why.
that's why I think I'd like to hear what my method is, because
Mm.
I don't know.
I can break it down for you. I can make a flow chart for you.
I don't fully know. Like, I know it's a lot of compliance and logistics,
Mm.
and being present, being able to listen, and gathering information. It's really those three things. You need to gather a lot of information. You need that information. Then there's like logistics and building compliance. I think that gets you closer to the bedroom more often than not. And I know in Sydney there was a lot of guys out there, doing game. They would report all of their results, and so I could kind of gauge where I was at compared to other guys in the community, even guys that were seen as being very successful.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was out gaming them, and I was like a lot older than them, less money, whatever, all of the stuff that people believe in. And I was able to get hotter, better, more consistent with these three basic things.
Which are?
Well, like being present, which is important. You could say that's kind of stolen from RSD and the Eckhart Tolle days.
Yeah.
But it's very relevant, because if the blood's pumping and your heart is thumping away and the adrenaline's pumping and you're not able to process the information, then you can't listen.
Right.
Then problem solving's almost impossible. And then getting logistics, you need to know where the dates are going to be. Like where she lives, you got to figure out, because every night people go back home. You can map out their entire week if you can figure out where she lives, where she works, what she's doing right now, to figure out if you can do a proper pull today.
Yeah.
And what industry she's in, so you can figure out what time frame, Monday to Friday, or is it hospitality? She's working on the weekends, which is common. Well, she's a uni student, so it's kind of all over the place, but she can make time anytime for you, usually lunchtime. And then just building compliance. If you see an opportunity, she's got the rest of it doesn't seem like she's got anything on today. Yeah. Let's build some compliance, listen carefully, problem solve, try to pull now if possible. And you'd be surprised how many girls that you think are way too attractive for you, you can get for a one-night stand at least. And you're in with a slight shot of locking her in or seeing her again.
Do you meditate?
That's another thing.
For being like present? Do you meditation?
No.
Stuff like that?
No, I think there's no other way to do it other than just exposure therapy. You just need to be out there in, gaming until you become relaxed with it, and that can take a while. Yeah. It's like anything in life. Like you play a sport, you're nervous on the field, you got to keep playing until you're not nervous.
Dope. Yeah, these are really good tips. Cool. Dave, let's end it here. And let's do this again. This was really fun. I mean, I learned a lot from you just by this conversation.
This is good. Right. Yes, good fun. I like this.
All right, guys. See ya.
See ya. I'll end the stream.